Before Rafael Nadal's dominance on the clay courts of Roland Garros, there was a man whose mastery of the surface set the stage for the legend to come. Carlos Moyá wasn't just a clay court specialist, he was a pioneer, a trailblazer who reshaped the sport with his powerful game, calm demeanor, and relentless drive. In a time when tennis was shifting from one era to the next, Moyá stood as a formidable force. But his story isn't just about victory, it's about resilience in the face of adversity, about an athlete who conquered the highest peaks and then had to reinvent himself. Carlos Moyá wasn't just the first Spaniard to claim the world #1 spot. He was the blueprint for greatness on clay before Nadal came along. This is the untold story of the tennis trailblazer who ruled clay before the Nadal era. Carlos Moyá was born on August 27, 1976, in Palma, Mallorca, a small island off Spain's eastern coast. From a young age, it was clear that Moyá was destined for greatness. Growing up in a tennis-loving family, his father, a keen amateur player, introduced him to the sport early on. It didn't take long before Moyá's natural athleticism and passion for the game started to shine. By the age of 8, he was already competing in local tournaments, quickly making a name for himself in the Spanish junior circuit. Moyá's game was built around a powerful baseline style, with a fluid, aggressive forehand that would later become one of his trademarks. His potential was undeniable, and by his teenage years he had turned professional, supported by a close-knit team who believed in his ability to one day reach the top of the game. Mallorca, with its roots in tennis history, became the ideal breeding ground for his future success. Carlos Moyá's professional debut came in 1993, when he was just 17 years old. His early years on tour were marked by rapid progress, thanks to his intense work ethic and the raw power in his game. In 1995, Moyá made a significant breakthrough when he reached the final of his first ATP Tour event, signaling that he was ready to make his mark. By 1997, Moyá had established himself as a rising star in the tennis world. His major breakthrough came in 1998 when he won the prestigious Monte Carlo Masters, announcing himself as one of the top players on the ATP Tour. This win was a precursor to what would be a career-defining period for Moyá, including his first Grand Slam title at the 1999 French Open. By the end of that year, Moyá was ranked world #1, becoming the first Spaniard to achieve that feat. His rise was swift, and the tennis world began to take notice of the young Spaniard from Mallorca. Carlos Moyá's dominance on clay courts wasn't by accident. It was a combination of his physical attributes, game style, and tactical brilliance. Moyá's towering presence on the court, standing at 6 feet 4 inches, gave him a significant advantage in controlling rallies. However, it was his baseline power, particularly his forehand, that made him a menace on the red dirt. His heavy topspin and ability to generate massive pace from the back of the court allowed him to dictate play from the very first shot. On clay, where points tend to be longer and more methodical, Moyá's ability to sustain high levels of aggression without making mistakes made him incredibly difficult to beat. What truly set Moyá apart, however, was his mental approach. Clay courts require patience, consistency, and the ability to grind out rallies, and Moyá excelled in this area. His composed demeanor and ability to stay cool under pressure on clay were crucial factors in his success. With a powerful serve and a refined ability to control both angles and depth, Moyá adapted his game perfectly to the demands of clay, making him one of the most formidable players of his generation on the surface. Carlos Moyá's career on clay is highlighted by a series of defining victories that not only showcased his mastery of the surface, but also solidified his place in tennis history. One of the most iconic moments in Moyá's clay court career came in 1998, when he captured the prestigious Monte Carlo Masters title. The victory was monumental for several reasons. Not only was it his first Masters 1000 title, but it was also an indicator of his immense potential. Defeating players like Goran Ivanisevic and Felix Mantilla on his way to the title, Moyá showed the tennis world that he was a force to be reckoned with, especially on clay. But it was his triumph at the 1999 French Open that truly cemented Moyá's place in history. In front of a roaring crowd, Moyá defeated fellow Spaniard Alex Corretja in a dramatic 4-set final, claiming his first Grand Slam title. This victory marked a turning point in Moyá's career, not just for the personal achievement, but also for the symbolic victory of a Spanish player atop the French Open. The win proved that Moyá was not just a clay court specialist, but a true contender on the world stage. Moyá's clay court success continued throughout his career. with notable victories at the 2002 Rome Masters, where he defeated the likes of Juan Carlos Ferrero and Andy Roddick. His ability to win on various surfaces, especially his sustained dominance on clay, set him apart from many of his contemporaries. Moyá's triumphs were not only a testament to his physical abilities, but also his strategic brilliance, patience, and mental toughness, qualities that made him a true clay court legend. Carlos Moyá's career was shaped by fierce rivalries, particularly on clay. One of his most significant battles was with fellow Spaniard Juan Carlos Ferrero. Both players were known for their clay court prowess, and their head-to-head matches were a true clash of titans. In 2003, Moyá triumphed over Ferrero in the quarterfinals of the French Open, a match that showed just how evenly matched the two were on their favored surface. This rivalry continued to be a defining feature of Moyá's clay court career, as both players pushed each other to the limit. Another pivotal rivalry came in his matches with Gustavo Kuerten, the Brazilian who had claimed multiple French Open titles. Moyá and Kuerten often clashed in the latter stages of clay tournaments, including the French Open and Monte Carlo, and their battles were marked by high-quality tennis and contrasting playing styles. Moyá's consistency and controlled aggression often proved decisive, but the rivalry was one that elevated both players to new heights on the clay courts. Carlos Moyá's journey to becoming world number one. One was a story of relentless determination, strategic evolution, and above all, hard work. After his breakthrough win at the 1998 Monte Carlo Masters and his 1999 French Open title, Moyá's ascent up the ATP rankings was inevitable, but the road to the top was not without its hurdles. Despite his early success, Moyá struggled to maintain consistency, often falling short at the bigger events and occasionally being outpaced by rival players like Pete Sampras, Gustavo Kuerten, and Andre Agassi. However, Moyá's game matured over time. He refined his approach, blending his aggressive baseline play with greater mental fortitude. His forehand, always a weapon, became more consistent and precise, allowing him to dominate not just on clay, but on hard courts as well. By 1999, Moyá had reached his career-high ranking of world number one, thanks to a strong season that included victories in Indian Wells and Rome, two prestigious hard court and clay court titles respectively. While many expected Moyá's rise to the top to be a gradual process, his breakthrough year in 1999 defied expectations. His consistency across all surfaces combined with his unrivaled performances on clay propelled him to the top. His 1,999 ATP Masters Series wins, coupled with his French Open triumph, put him at the pinnacle of the sport, making him the first Spaniard to hold the #1 ranking in ATP history. Carlos Moyá's reign at world number one, though short-lived, was historic and significant. After claiming the top spot in March 1999, he briefly held the position for 2 weeks. His time at the summit was marked by an undeniable sense of achievement, as he became the first Spaniard in history to reach that coveted ranking, a feat that not only solidified his place in tennis history, but also put him at the forefront of Spain's golden generation of tennis players. However, Moyá's time at number one was fleeting, and in part due to the emergence of players like Pete Sampras and the dominance of Andre Agassi, he was soon dethroned. Nevertheless, his brief spell at the top was a testament to his exceptional talent and his ability to compete at the highest level. Moyá's time as world number one remains a proud moment for Spanish tennis, inspiring future generations of players, including Rafael Nadal. As Moyá's career progressed, so too did the challenges that would define the second half of his professional journey. Despite his early success and natural talent, injuries began to take a significant toll on the Spaniard's body. In particular, chronic issues with his lower back and knees hindered his movement and ability to compete at the highest level consistently. These injuries affected Moyá's playing style, which relied heavily on explosive power and fluid footwork, making it increasingly difficult for him to maintain his usual aggressive baseline game. By the early 2000s, Moyá's physical struggles became more pronounced, particularly after he experienced several injury-related setbacks during key tournaments. His ranking began to slide as he struggled to regain his fitness, leading to early exits at major events. The physical toll was undeniable, and Moyá was forced to adjust his training and match schedules, often limiting his appearances to certain surfaces where his body could tolerate the demands. Despite the challenges, Moyá never lost his competitive fire. He was determined to extend his career and adapt his game to suit his changing physical condition. However, by the mid-2000s, it was clear that his time as a top contender was coming to an end. Yet, his resilience and commitment to the sport remained, marking a pivotal shift in his career trajectory. As Moyá's singles career began to wind down due to persistent injuries, he transitioned to a more supportive role in the tennis world. His singles career had already seen a fair share of highs, but with his physical limitations, Moyá shifted his focus to doubles. While he was no longer competing for Grand Slam titles in singles, Moyá continued to demonstrate his skill on the court in doubles, where he enjoyed a measure of success, even capturing a few ATP doubles titles. Moyá's transition also marked a significant shift toward mentorship. As his own playing career slowed, he began to focus on guiding the next generation of Spanish players, particularly with his involvement as a coach. In 2016, he notably joined the coaching team of Rafael Nadal, providing invaluable advice and helping shape Nadal's game, especially in terms of his tactical and mental approach. Moyá's shift from player to mentor demonstrated his enduring love for tennis and his commitment to nurturing future talent in the sport. Carlos Moyá's influence on Spanish tennis cannot be overstated. Long before Rafael Nadal became the undisputed king of clay, Moyá was the first Spaniard to truly make his mark on the global tennis stage. His achievements, particularly his 1998 French Open title, were groundbreaking for Spanish tennis, establishing a new era of success for his country. Moyá's triumph was a catalyst for the wave of Spanish players who would dominate the sport in the years to come, and he became a symbol of Spain's growing tennis prowess. Moyá's ability to compete at the highest level across different surfaces laid the groundwork for future generations, most notably Rafael Nadal, who would go on to redefine the sport. But beyond his titles and accolades, Moyá was a mentor for younger players in the Spanish tennis system, offering guidance and insight into the mental and physical aspects of the game. His calm demeanor, professionalism, and disciplined work ethic became a blueprint for the players who followed. Moyá's impact extended far beyond the court. He became the foundation upon which the modern Spanish tennis legacy was built, inspiring not just Nadal, but also players like David Ferrer and Juan Carlos Ferrero. While Carlos Moyá's career was undeniably successful, it was also marked by the presence of the legendary Rafael Nadal, who would soon become the dominant force in Spanish and global tennis. Moyá, though a trailblazer, was overshadowed by the sheer magnitude of Nadal's achievements on clay, particularly after Nadal's rise in the mid-2000s. Whereas Moyá's time at the top was brief, Nadal would go on to redefine tennis with his unparalleled consistency and record-breaking accomplishments. Moyá, however, deserves credit for laying the groundwork for Nadal's success. His achievements and professional approach to the game shaped a generation of players in Spain, including Nadal, who has often cited Moyá as an inspiration. Without Moyá's earlier successes, the Spanish tennis dominance we know today may never have materialized. Carlos Moyá retired from professional tennis in 2010 after a career that spanned nearly 2 decades. While his reign at the top was short, his contributions to the sport were significant, particularly in the context of Spanish tennis history. His career was marked by key moments of success, but it is his role in laying the foundation for future generations that stands out most. In recognition of his achievements, Moyá has been honored by the Spanish tennis community and the ATP, not only for his remarkable career but also for his mentorship and lasting influence on the next wave of tennis talent. His legacy continues to be celebrated by those who followed in his footsteps. Carlos Moyá's career was marked by incredible achievements, including his 1998 French Open title and his brief stint as world number 1. A master of the clay courts, Moyá was the first Spaniard to reach the top of the ATP rankings, and his consistency across surfaces solidified his place as one of the game's greats. His victories at major tournaments and his impact on the sport in Spain were monumental, paving the way for future generations of tennis stars. Moyá's influence on Spanish tennis extends far beyond his own career. As a pioneer in the pre-Nadal era, he inspired countless young players, including Rafael Nadal, and became a key mentor in Spain's tennis evolution. His professionalism, dedication, and style of play laid the foundation for the tennis powerhouse Spain would become. Though his time in the spotlight was brief, His legacy endures through the players who followed and the lasting impact he made on the sport.